All right, welcome to this week's Financial X segment. If this is your first time here, thank you for tuning in. Basically, in this segment, what I do is I go through all of the names that are kind of buzzing around on Financial X, the names that are kind of being pushed, the names that are popular, to see if we can also take advantage of these names. So let's get right to it. Let me adjust my settings here real quick. All right, number one. Micron. Micron continues to be on a tear. Everyone continues to say how much it has gone up. People were calling a top back here from this low to this high, 160% move in 28 trading days. Then it continued to move higher. About here, 44 days, 246% move. And now it's even moving higher to, where we at? About 264% in 55 trading days. Yes, this move is insane. However, with the volatility that is in these names, as a trader, you're almost forced to be here. And so you miss maybe you miss the main meat of the move, yet we don't know how long these can actually run. The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Remember that. So it doesn't matter what you think. The market's going to do what it wants to do. You don't know anything, no matter, even if you heavily rely on confirmation bias or hindsight's 2020. You don't know what's going to happen. This can take 20% on Monday, or it can rip 20% on Monday, gap up 20% on Monday. You don't know. And so the biggest thing is you have to manage your risk. Know when you are getting out before you get in. And always respect your stops. Okay, so Micron, it looks good. Continues, it's above the 8, it's above the 21, it's above the 50. Everything is up sloping. Yes, it's had a monster move, but that's where the volatility is. You can take advantage of it out on the upside and the downside, by the way. Okay, Rocket Lab. This week I was thinking about entering actually on Tuesday, risking Friday's low. That would have ended up working out. Thursday would have given us a good entry too. However, what I like about this, I really actually like Rocket Lab. Number one, why? Look where it's basing. It's at the 50 EMA, which is typically pretty an interesting area for larger institutions. Yet also we have confluence near the breakout area. We also have confluence at this pivot on gap. From this May 8th bar on Friday. So basically a huge ignition bar. It is failing to take out Friday, June 12th's lows, and it has a beautiful bottoming tail on Thursday on volume. So this looks like it's going to base, it's starting to base here. I wonder if as SPCX, SpaceX, if that starts to sell a little bit from the strong move it's had off of its IPO, money starts to flow back into the other space names. Similar with ASTS, this is at an interesting level. It hit all-time highs and then failed to move higher. It failed to hold the breakout, basically. And so now it's just kind of range-bound. Let me basically what we can do here. Now it's range-bound within this 130 to 77, so it's a pretty big range. But that's what these volatile names do. This could be a potential support play down here. Maybe risk the low of someday if we get a strong push up, or if we get a gap down even to like 60s. I'd be looking for a buy if we got a gap down to 60s, because otherwise, look. If you look left, and this is also where prior support was, doesn't mean it's going to be again, but this is the homework that you do. You mark your levels out ahead of time. Moving on, Palantir, zooming out, people are saying that, hey, this is kind of a reverse cup and handle. Yeah, you can make it look like that, right? This doesn't look the best, and don't be surprised if we break these lows here. I was saying a few weeks ago, I'm anticipating the 120s, mid 120s. I'm just basically, seeing if this holds. If this holds, that would be ideal. But however, if this 122 level breaks, I would actually be watching for, you can say 118. That's nothing crazy though. 105, and then maybe even 100, like 95, 96. That's what I would be looking for if this 120 breaks. somewhere in there. So be mindful of that. Palantir is kind of a laggard at this point. It's not really doing anything. HIMS, I was kind of bagging on it a couple of weeks ago, saying I don't see anything here. It's a broken down stock. Why was I saying that? Because the 200 is going down. This is chopping. It was coming up to an area of potential supply here. It was underneath the 200 EMA, and it kind of, this has potential to be a bear flag. It's downtrending. Right, long-term downtrend, but now it's a moderate-term uptrend, I would say. However, tone has changed. I have the right to change my mind at any point in time. This name is in play, actually. The fact that it can get above this level, whereas prior support, you can see where it broke down. I'd say this $30, $32 area. We're getting some volume coming in. Nice move on 11%. It's above the 200 now. It's above the 8, above the 21, above the 50. These things are starting to curl up. It looks like it's starting to get more momentum, which is nice. So where could we find potential supply? I would just start by marking levels where the peaks were in the past. And so targeting, I would say, these areas here, this upcoming week, we're already pretty close to 36. So I would expect a pullback, retest of the 8 or the 21, or even this like $30 area. That could lead to a nice potential higher low where you could potentially risk against. I think even a pullback to 28 would potentially be viable as well. Otherwise, I would go level by level. The next one would be $40 or so. That would be somewhere, just about there. And then it'll probably chop around, see how much potential supply comes out of all this. You got a lot of work to do through this, but it looks good. NVIDIA, it's a snooze fest, really. That's what it is. It's chopping around the 50. We got a nice little volume pump on Thursday, which is nice. It's chopping around the breakout area. It looks okay. It's just kind of a snooze fest. It's not as strong as the other chips and semis. SMCI. I have trust issues with this one because of the financial fraud issues that they've had in the past. However, it is at an interesting area, I suppose. You can see that it absolutely ripped for whatever reason and then absolutely dipped afterwards, got smoked. This is why you manage your risk, because this thing loses 28% in a freaking day. That's just, manage your risk. Make sure you're getting where you're getting out before you get in. That's really the biggest thing. It's at an interesting level now. I don't touch this. Really, what is it doing? It's in a big range. So maybe it's tradable with these huge intraday moves. But I don't know. I don't like that name. AAOI, Applied Optoelectronics. Looks interesting. So firstly, what pops out to me, obvious levels right there. Another obvious level to me is this area here. It looks okay. It's chopping around. It kind of has like a rounding type look, rounding top type look to it. Obviously, that can be completely wrong. It's a very strong name. It could just be chopping around, basing a little bit. It kind of reminds me of LITE right now. Look at that. Chopping around, right? So that's kind of what the optoelectronics are doing, I suppose. I don't know. I think there's better places to be. Moving on, IREN. This looks solid. Looking at the weekly chart. Nice bottom tails. Couldn't break this low. It closed above last week's close. This pivot on gap held. If we go back to the daily, right? There's sellers up here, but it's only 22% away from all-time highs here. Higher low off of this, holding the 8 and 21. Nice bottoming tail on Thursday. We set an anchor VWAP to this low, see if it's holding it. See, this looks very nice for next week. This is actually one of my top watches. It was my top watch for last week, but I did not get in because I was waiting for some sort of low to be like a low to risk. And then I decided to go with other names on Thursday other than this one. But IREN continues to look great. It is a top look for me next week. SOUN AI. It's at an interesting level. If you zoom out on the weekly, it's held here in the past. It's undercut this 660 area all the way down to 580 or so. Undercut and came back above. This might be starting to base. This might be a potential double bottom, but in order for it to be considered a double bottom, in my book, it has to clear the resistance area. And so I would say it has to clear, I don't know, 10 bucks, 9.50, 10 bucks, certainly above the 200 EMA. Maybe you can do a range trade with this, risking, I don't know, this Thursday's low if you really wanted to. I think there's better places to be. ARM Holdings, this thing is a monster. I tried to get in at the beginning of this week, and I just could not find a good area to find a nice, good risk reward setup. So I missed this entire move. I was watching it from Thursday. What I would have liked Friday, Monday of this week, I was looking for a pullback on Monday, somewhere in here to test the low of Wednesday, like Tuesday, Wednesday, to test this 310-ish area to risk against this 300. It didn't work. Obviously, it just continued to rip. So very strong name. It's a name that we should be looking for potential entries. App. What happened here? This thing ripped and then dipped, right? These are very volatile names, as you can see, which is why you should always manage your risk. Looking at obvious levels here first, we can go here, right? This is a good practice to do. Just go through your charts, find obvious ranges, nice support resistance flip areas, and I don't know what that is. I was drawing something. And, create plans based off of what's going on. Maybe this is a decent area. However, you might be able to consider this a failed breakout from this consolidation area. So from failed moves comes fast moves. This could very well go right back down to 360 and retest these lows. Don't be shocked if that happened. You should have been trimming and trailing on this ignition bar here. 10%, 6%, another 8%. Yeah, you should, from, if you got it, let's just say you got on the Tuesdays in the ignition bar, you got 25% in 4 days. Come on now. Let's not get too greedy. Yeah. You'd be trimming and trailing there. Those are the most popular names this week. Oracle was one of them last name. I think it's important to mention. It's holding the anchor VWAP from the, where is this coming from? Oh, prior earnings here, which is good. This could be like a little mini double bottom here. This low, either way, the low from this earnings here, from the gap down is holding. And so that's a nice sign. It might be worth risking. SPCE, this got crushed because people thought it was SPCX, SpaceX, before it IPO'd, which is kind of funny. Not funny if you got crushed, though. So sorry if you did. Hood is in play for sure. It is now breaking out of this range. It's starting a new uptrend here. Downtrend line broken, range broken. I would be looking for pullbacks to potentially enter in. None of this is ever financial advice, by the way. You are always personally responsible for your own risks. SOFI, this continues to be a popular name. This is consolidating, right? This might be, if you are an investor, it might be a decent area to potentially, what I would do personally, I'm not giving you advice again, but it might be a good time to build a position in this name, because if it consolidates and eventually breaks out, what does this look like? What did I just show you? Boom, bada bing, hood. Consolidates, breaks out, it's going to go to all-time, it'll most likely head to all-time highs here, right? So don't be surprised if SOFI does the same thing eventually, when nobody ever knows. Don't believe people that tell you that they do know, because they don't. They're liars or delusional. So it's got to clear this 20 bucks and actually hold it, the 200, and actually hold it for it to have actual real legs. But if you're a range trader, you might be able to trade in this range that it is in now of 1960 to 15 bucks. It's a decent sized range. What is it percentage wise? 22% or so. I wouldn't diddle in the middle. Maybe you can risk, if you're like aching to get in, like try not to FOMO into it, but maybe you can risk Thursday's low and get a 1960, something like that. Be a nice 10% move or so. Maybe you could do that. All right, those are the popular name over FinX over the past 2 weeks. Hopefully you guys like this. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Give me thoughts, ideas. What are you guys looking at? If you guys want some help with analysis or want to share stock trading ideas, whatever you want to do, connect with me. And always manage your risk. Trade safe next week. Later.